What's up, everybody? I am in a different location. My family and we just drove 12 hours to go to Georgia to spend the week with my wife's grandparents, Mima and Pop. They have not seen a single person in real life this entire quarantine time. So we went with my mother-in-law and my son Theo, drove 12 hours, and we are in Atlanta, Georgia, living it up this week. But I'm teaching Sunday school, and so me and my homie Papa Bear, that is what Theo calls him. This is the silliest bear, the dumbest bear, but I also love it. So I am in the attic room doing a little Sunday school lesson for y'all. But guess what? This week, school starts. I know it might not feel like it, but school is starting. This is supposed to be back to school Sunday. And normally this is one of our, seriously, like in the church statistic world, this is like a top 5 weekend for church attendance, because everybody, whenever school starts, you want to get into a good rhythm and at least start off like on a good note. But there's this thing called COVID-19, and it has not gone away. It is absolutely crazy. School for the next month for some of y'all, I know that all schools are doing things differently, but I know for most schools are meeting virtually for at least this first month until Labor Day. And the last thing that I thought was that COVID was going to go through all of the spring semester, much less the whole summer, much less intrude on the fall semester. So you might be watching this right now and have gotten really sad. And what this lesson is not meant to be is to make you sad at all. I think that your perspective on this school semester, that God can still do good things. So stay with me. I'm going to try to bring some positivity to your life, but it's crazy. Like, it feels like if you are anything like me during this COVID time, I have lost all ability to track time, to know what is happening, to know what day it is, much less like what month it is. My birthday is actually August 12th. So yes, you can hit me up on the Instagram. I am turning 29 years old. I'm not quite 30 yet. Once I turn 30, then I'm old. But so I have one more year left to still wear a baseball hat every single day and play Animal Crossing and stuff like that. But yeah, so I have lost all ability of tracking time. Whenever COVID first happened, it was like the Tiger King season, and Tiger King just ruled all of my thought processes. And then it was the Last Dance season, where I just watched Michael Jordan. And then it became the Inner Banks season, where me and my wife just consumed all of the Inner Banks. And there have been different shows, but probably a good nostalgic season for me has been the Hamilton season. So I know that the Hamilton wave came a little bit ago. I was one of the first pioneers of Hamilton. I won't lie. I wear that as a badge of honor. I did not jump onto the bandwagon late. I was listening to a podcast, and they were based in New York, and this random sports dude went to see Hamilton. And I love hip hop. I don't like history. I failed all of my history classes, because history you just have to memorize stuff, and your boy's horrible at memorizing. My memory is pretty awful. So anyway, but I loved Hamilton because it involves hip hop and it involves rapping. So loved it. My wife and I actually went to go see Hamilton with my parents in Houston. It wasn't the original cast, but it was still great. And so Hamilton came on Disney Plus, which I have a subscription to, mostly because I have a 20-month-old now. Theo, 21-month-old? I don't know. He's pretty old now. And we watch Disney Plus more than anything. So I watched Hamilton, and one of the reasons that I love Hamilton is because, one, it's just different. One, there's hip hop, but it's just inspiring. You cannot watch Hamilton. Also, it's weird. I am recording this on Zoom. Normally I use my fancy camera, but I didn't bring it with me. And so I can watch myself on the computer screen, and I touch my beard a lot that I don't really realize. But anyway, so Hamilton is great, and really it's about like what is your legacy. And there is the song, and it says, "History has its eyes on you." And I love this song, listened to the song like 50 times. But during COVID, that song and like the idea of that song has just resonated with me a lot, because really like in that time with Alexander Hamilton, he knew that this was like, and they knew that they were on like the new beginning of America, and how they were and how they used their lives would have this ripple effect throughout all of American history. And honestly, like, I know it's really like, really, it can seem extreme, but the same as for COVID-19, like how our generation, or how your generation or my generation, how this generation of Americans chooses to allow COVID-19 and change things or don't change things, like whatever, the way that we like move forward will forever have this ripple effect like throughout history. Like I distinctly remember in 5th grade, on 9/11, like I distinctly remember 9/11. My parents pulled me out of class. I watched the Twin Towers fall on the television. I remember like the 6 months afterwards, just how people behaved and how people interacted. And 9/11 forever changed history, for good or for bad. Like changed airports, it changed security, it changed just this idea of safety and traveling and everything. And the recession in like 2008 changed everything, and changed like this idea that money isn't permanent and you can lose your job instantly, and buying a house can be a scary, sketchy thing sometimes if you don't do it properly. And COVID-19 is going to do the exact same thing. That you right now in middle school, in high school, you will be adults one day, and will look back on this time, and like this will forever shape like history, like our future. And whenever COVID first happened, I was listening to this podcast, and this guy called it the Great Pause instead of the Great Depression. He had this big joke about calling it the Great Pause, and how everything just paused, like just not necessarily stopped like for forever, but just paused. Like sports paused, going to Target paused, going out to eat paused, going to work paused. And he had this big joke about pausing and all of this different stuff. And I've thought about that a lot, because the more that COVID continues, at first pausing made sense whenever I thought this season was only going to be 2 weeks or a couple months, but now it's gone into 5 months, and it's going to go much longer than 5 months. And I think that, or not think, but like I have been kind of framing this, not the Great Pause, but the Great Reset. Whenever I look at my life, not that I have like necessarily like any like immoral bad habits that I've just like, it's not like I am like a super sketchy bad dude, but like I just have some unhealthy habits that I have hit pause on. And because I hit pause, it's causing me to reset and like question, like, do I really need these things? So like going out to eat, I get fast food a lot. I like to skip lunch just because I'm just grinding, doing Excel docs or meeting with kids or like whatever. So whenever I drive home, I'm like, I'm going to hit up McDonald's, get a large Coke and a large fry. And that became like a 3 time a week just habit that I got into. Then COVID happened, and your boy has not had a McDonald's Coke like in this entire time. Okay, I have had one. I have also gotten into like Sonic on like Monday nights, but oh well. But like just that idea that like I got out of this habit, I hit pause, and whenever I went back to work, I didn't need this Coke. I just like reset. I'm like, I'm saving money. I'm losing some weight. This feels good. I'm going to reset like my direction. And I think that it's weird that my notes are on my computer. And so, so eating out, like pause. Sports for me was something that I won't lie. I would never have said this before, but like I was addicted to. It's something that like, I love the Astros, love the Rockets. I love being like a knowledgeable sports person. So I would drop date nights with my wife. I would not uh, put Theo down to have a bath because the Rockets were playing, like different things, or I'll just be on my phone, like on Twitter. And because sports got taken away, spent a lot more time with my family. Now basketball came back, and I'm like, actually, I can give Theo a bath right now and spend time with him and just watch the second quarter. I don't need to watch tip off. So there have been a lot of things that have caused me to like reset my thinking. Relationships. I am someone, while I seem extroverted and I talk on stage, I get very tired being around people very quickly. And so relationships, like friendships, is something that like I have a very small inner circle, and I love hanging out with my inner circle. If you're not, and I am at home, I'm rarely ever going to like leave my house and just like go hang out with people. Now, your boy is like beyond desperate for relationships, and it's something where it's not just like a seasonal thing. It's caused me to like realize how important relationships are and friendships, and having people that I can like interact with and be like have deep conversations with, and just like how important relationships are to my faith and to me growing in Jesus. Yeah, so not the great pause, the great reset. All right, so there is this word called convictions that we don't really like use a lot in our culture, but it's a very Christian phrase, like this idea of conviction. So I looked up conviction in the dictionary, and it says a conviction is a firmly held belief or opinion. It is something that you absolutely believe is true. And COVID has kind of like brought about these new convictions. So whether it is family time, which I'll get to, but like these new things that like, because I paused and because I have reset and reframed and like looked at things, it's causing me to like live my life differently. Going back to that definition, it is something that you absolutely believe is true. It is a firmly held belief. And so I'm going to give y'all a couple of convictions that I have like adopted over this time. And I really do think like with school coming back right now, I think it is what I don't want, and what what I think God does not want either, is for COVID to just be a pause, just be something where you were in this way of life, whether it was sinful habits or just really busy rhythms or not really living with purpose. And we have had this 5-month pause to where you could, hopefully you have grown as a person, spent more time with Jesus, picked up some hobbies, done some different things. But what I don't want, and what I know God doesn't want, is for whenever school does start back up, to you to just pick up all of that stuff that that you were doing. I think that this is a great time for us to like think about: are you living the life that God wants you to live? Are you living a life where history can look to you? The future can look to you and say like, hey, like your future family, like you as an adult, are you like kind of getting into these habits and these rhythms that will maximize your impact and your purpose in this world? So a conviction, like some of y'all might have this conviction that LeBron James is the GOAT, is the greatest basketball player of all time. If you have that conviction, watch The Last Dance. I won't lie. I used to think that LeBron James, or I like went like back and forth. I never like really knew. Isaac Harris, the high school director, loves Michael Jordan, thinks he's like God himself. So I like to joke with him that LeBron is like better than him. But then if there are LeBron fans, I say that Michael is better. Then I watched the Last Dance. I've actually watched it twice because it is now on Netflix, and just cemented. There's no doubt in my mind, Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player ever. I will not go back and forth now. 100%, this is a very deeply held belief that I have now, is that Michael Jordan is the greatest player. And I think that for a lot of us, like, we have opinions on things. Like you can believe certain things, you can say certain things, but is that a conviction of yours? Do you feel within your soul deeply convicted and deeply true? Like, is that deeply, deeply true? So without further ado, 3 convictions that I have. One is I'm going to put my value and my identity in Jesus. Now, that is a very like churchy, youth pastory thing to say. I'm sure that you have heard a lot of sermons on your identity and putting it in Jesus. But truly, like, there is, I think that the way that I find value in things is by what I do. And right now, like, if you have been an athlete your whole life, you've gone 5 months now without playing football, without doing sports, and how you view yourself has been changed and has been rocked just a little bit by not being able to be an athlete. If you are someone that is a cheerleader, and you haven't been able to do cheerleading, if you are someone that does choir, like, whenever we put our identity in these things based on what we do, whenever those things get taken away, it causes us to question our identity. I won't lie. While I've never thought that this was bad, I find my identity in being a youth pastor. Like, I find my identity in talking to people, not talking to a computer screen where I can watch myself and it's awkward. I find my identity in, like, being around students and being relational and doing Camp Impact. And it is easy for me to trick myself into thinking that that is good, or that is putting my identity in Jesus. I'm doing things for church, so that must be Jesus. But whenever youth group gets taken away, whenever church gets taken away, or meeting in person in church gets taken away, it exposed, like, in my heart and like in my motives and in my priorities, that like my identity was in my job, and my identity was in this is like really next level, but I was pretty sad and like depressed about Camp Impact not happening. You probably were too. And the more that I've thought about it, the reason that I'm sad is because I put my identity in Camp Impact and in getting that camp high and in fun games and tubular bacon, and that's how you experience Jesus. But really, like, whenever that got taken away, Jesus still remained. But it was so easy for me to like forget that. There is this story that I should have read like 5 minutes ago, and it would have made this point way better, but I kind of just kept rolling with it. But sorry, in Luke chapter 10, verse 38, Jesus goes to the home of these 2 sisters, Mary and Martha. And this is very interesting kind of way to view this point that I am talking about. So Luke chapter 10, verse 38 says, as Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Her sister Mary sat at Jesus' feet listening to what he taught. But Martha was distracted by the big dinner that she was preparing. She came to Jesus and she said, Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all of the work? Tell her to come and help me. Pause. All right. So Jesus is going to this town, and there is this lady named Martha, and Martha is like, oh, Jesus is a celebrity. He's going to come to my house. And so Jesus comes, and Martha is busy getting this feast ready, getting food ready, preparing her house, making sure it's clean, making sure that Jesus is impressed, making sure that Jesus is comfortable. And her sister Mary is just sitting at Jesus' feet listening to him talk. And Martha is really salty. She's like, I'm doing all of this work to make sure that Jesus has a great event and a great time at my house. So she goes and snitches and then complains to Jesus about her sister. And she says, Jesus, can't you tell Martha to come with me and do the important stuff and get this food ready? And Jesus' response is haunting and is really something great. And Jesus said to her, my dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all of these details. There is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. I'm going to repeat that. All right, so Jesus says, Martha, you are worried and upset over all of these details. There's one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. So Jesus says, Martha, you're over here doing all of these details, good details. Preparing food is good. Cleaning up is good. But you're over here concerned about all of these details. Mary is concerned about this one thing, and this one thing will never be taken away from her. In a season where everything feels like it has been taken away from us, this point about Jesus will never be taken away from us is so, 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 so true. And is something that I have been thinking a lot about, that we have kind of like built our lives based on these things, these details. We're so concerned about these details without us really like realizing, hey, like we're losing focus. Like Jesus wants to talk to us, but we're not listening to him because we're busy doing all of these things. So my first thing is, putting your value and your identity in Jesus. Whenever our identity is rooted in Jesus, whenever other things get taken away, our identity, our value and how we see ourselves does not change because Jesus is still there. And as long as he is still there, he is our rock. And really, like, I've been this emotional roller coaster, and I'm like, God, like, show me a sign. Like, why am I being this emotional roller coaster? What's going on? And the reason I am is because truly my value and my identity has not been in Jesus. It's in doing things for Jesus, but not just listening to him and being there with him. Like, yo, that's stinking good. So whenever you go back to school, pursuing grades, good grades, or sports, or arts, or being creative, or friendships, like none of that is bad, but just know that those things can be taken away. And if you are not rooted in who Jesus is, whenever those things get taken away, it's going to be even harder for you. All right. So my conviction number 2 is I will not overlook my time. This goes like both sides. But as I said, that the amount of times that I have just been like, no, Zara, you give Theo a bath. No, I'm not going to hang out with y'all on my off day. I want to go play golf with the boys, like whatever. While those things are good, it's like made me realize that like time is not guaranteed. There is this verse in Psalm 90:12, and it says, Lord, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. All right. So a wise person, a wise heart numbers their days, knows that each day is not guaranteed. There's kind of like this mindset approach that a lot of us have adopted just over time. And it is that if I can, then I must. So if I can do it, then I must do it. And that's like, if I can take 8 AP classes, then I must do it. So it'll prepare me for college better. If I can be on 3 soccer teams, then I must do it. If I can spend all summer traveling, then I must do it. Really, that's not true. And just because you can do something doesn't mean that you must do something, because whenever a time like this happens and your days are changed, your plans are changed, it like makes you realize the important things that you want to do have been put off. So like the things that you could right now in quarantine, like I'm like, hey, like I hope that you are being a better person. I hope that you are being rooted in God. I hope that you're getting into better habits. But maybe you're not. Like maybe you've spent the last 5 months being like, man, I have time to read that book that I have always wanted to. I have time to read the Bible. I have time to listen to this worship album. I have time to pick up this new hobby. And it's been 5 months and you still haven't done it yet. Reset. Like, don't let this just be a pause, but really like allow a wise person numbers their days and is aware that like none of our days are guaranteed. And then number 3, the third conviction is that I will invest in people. Man, I think that I am around people a lot. I say that I am a relational person. I like talking with people. And then whenever people get pulled away and your ability to interact with people gets removed, it makes us realize that like the relationships that we have, you might know a lot of people, but are you invested in a lot of people? People might know you or what their idea of you is, but do they know the real you? I think that with social media and with mostly with social media, but with technology, like it's very easy for people to know us, but not know the real us. And my third conviction is having real friendships and being my real self. Because whenever those things do get taken away, whenever your ability to connect with people is gone, basically, unless you want to FaceTime people, it makes you realize that like the importance of being in community and building relationships with other people. Which brings me to this point, all right? We are going to be starting up Lighthouse and 412 in 2 weeks. So today is August the 9th. On August the 23rd, 412 and Lighthouse will start. They will look very different. They will have to be socially distant. But this summer, we have been doing Wednesday Night Live. We have been doing park parties. We've been doing things where y'all get like hang out with each other. But both Lighthouse and 412 are going to be focused on small groups and are going to be focused on you being able to truly invest with other people. Not just like talking about sports and catching up on what shows people have been watching, but really talking about life and how your soul is and like having people that make you better. There is obviously a lot of scripture that talks about community and how like the church is like the body and how we each are like all matter to each other, how like you are the eyes and I am the nose and someone is the elbow. And that's like that we've talked about that on almost every Camp Impact about community. And that's true. Like whenever community is gone, it makes you realize how much you need other people and how doing life and doing faith in this faith journey by yourself is impossible. You need other people to help bring you along, to encourage you, to support you. So Lighthouse will be meeting from 7 to 8. 412 will be from 5:30 to 6:30. We will be in person outside at church. You have to have a mask on. You have to be 6 feet apart. But please, please, please come. Like for real. Like you might have gotten out of this habit and of just being around people. And I think that like the more that we are alone and isolated, it causes us to be depressed. And whenever we are depressed or sad, it makes us think that we're not worthy, and it makes it harder for us to get into community with other people. But man, like we were created to be in relationships and be in community. That's the number one thing that I have realized. And that's something that we stress a lot just as a church and as a youth group. And that I hope that you know, but like really like you were not made. You cannot do you cannot have a relationship with Jesus, an authentic one that is growing and one that is not stagnant without other people. So I love you. I hope that this encouraged you. Going back to my 3 convictions really quickly. All right. So is one, that my identity and my value is put in Jesus, not in what I do. Number 2, that I won't overlook my time, whether that is positive or negative. I am doing the things that are important to me, and I am not doing the things that don't bring value to my life. And the number 3 is I will invest in people, and investing in community, I truly think is like the most important thing that you can do with your life. All right. Y'all are awesome. Papa Bear, thank you very much for being my bodyguard. I hope that, that he didn't scare y'all too much. And I'll see y'all later. I'm going to chill out in Hotlanta for the week. All right. Peace.